What is up, everybody? It is I, Ronin, and today I'm coming at you with a learning how to play for a newer archetype, actually, one that I learned about fairly recently, and was kind of fascinating. That being despia, with a little bit of a dragma or dogmatika twist. So, talking about despia. So, essentially, lore-wise, I'm pretty sure despians, like the despia monsters, are pretty much like the corrupt versions of the dogmatika or dragma monsters. Like, for example, Maximus here is the equivalent to dramaturgia, and then there's just possessing weapons and armors and whatnot. But in essence, they are a fusion deck that likes to steal extra deck monsters, which is pretty neat. But yeah, let's go ahead and get right into it, starting with the Man of the Hour brought up, and probably one of your more important cards, Dramaturgia of Despia. So it's a level 8 Dark Fairy with 3,000 attack and 1,500 defense. And if any extra deck monster is special summoned except during the damage set, you can target an effect monster on the field to have its effects be negated until the end of the turn. And if it's used as fusion material from the hand or the field and it's sent to the graveyard or banished, you can special summon it. So if you use it as fusion material, you basically just get it back on the field for free, so you just got a free 3,000 beer that can potentially negate some stuff. So, very cool. These effects are hard once per turn, though. So, yeah, kind of always want to have this guy ready to go, just because he's a body on the field on top of one of your already massive fusion monsters, because this deck has a weird obsession with level 8 fusions. But, yeah, very good to have, very good to have. It special summons itself nicely. Only downside is potentially a break if you don't have setup. After that, though, going to our next Despia monster, we have Albert, Jester of Despia, level 4 Dark Fairy with 1,800 attack, 0 defense. When it's normal or special, you can add a Stigmata spell trap from your deck to your hand. And if a face-up fusion monster you control is destroyed by battle or it leaves the field because of an opponent's card effect while it's in the grave, you can negate something's effects on your opponent's field, and special summon it back. However, yeah, it is a hard one per turn. So it's a cool searcher, lets you run some of the more niche Stigmatika stuff. However, what we really want it for is the Stigmatika spell trap for this archetype, Stigmatika Curtain Rise, a quick play spell that lets you discard a card, then add from your hand or special summon defense mode a Despia monster from the deck. And for the rest of this turn, you are locked into fusion summoning from the extra deck. And if a fusion monster you control will be destroyed by battle or card effect, you can banish this from the graveyard instead. These are hard ones per turn. So it lets you special summon your big dramaturgia, get out your tragedy, which we'll go over in a second, get another search off of Albert, if you already have like something else in hand. So yeah, just honestly a very insanely good card. Now for the last Despia monster, though, we have Despian of Tragedy. It's the level 1 Dark Fairy with 400 attack and defense each. And if it's sent to the graveyard by a card effect, you can add a Despia monster from your deck to your hand, except for itself. And by banishing it from the graveyard, you can target a Stigmatica spell trap in the grave to set it to your field. These are hard ones per turn. So that's why we have things like Foolish Burial. If this is in hand, you can discard it off of Stigmatica to get a search. You can send it with the field fusion spell. You can even send it from something like Black-Clad Dragon Albion, I think. Let me check. Actually, no, you can't. But there's a lot you can still do with it, so definitely worth having at free. Now, though, for our last sort of Despia card, we have the field spell Despia the Stigmatica Feeder, so also searchable by Albert. However, outside of functioning as a poly on the field that restricts you to level 8 or higher fusion monsters from the extra deck, and it also has a kind of neat floating effect that if a face-up non-fusion fairy monsters you control is destroyed by battle or leaves the field because of an opponent's card effect, you can try a level 8 or higher fusion in the grave, special summon it. It's a hard once per turn. So it lets all your littler guys float into your big, scary fusion monsters. It's not limited to Despia, so pretty good. All it requires is level 8 or higher, so definitely worth having around and is kind of your primary playmaker. Now, though, for the sort of more dogmatika side of things, we only run a small engine of Disciple of Nadir, Ecclesia, and Maximus. So, essentially, after you do your fusion plays, if you have the Disciple or the Nadir Servant, whatever you want to call it, I definitely prefer to have this in hand before doing anything. You send a extra deck monster to the grave, which lets you search Ecclesia. Then, because you will ideally have a extra deck monster out on your field, you can special summon Ecclesia, at which point you can search your Maximus, and then you can use Maximus's effect to banish the monster you sent off of Nadir's Servant from the grave to special summon itself, at which point you are able to then send some more monsters from your extra deck to the graveyard to force your opponent to send some extra deck monsters to the graveyard, which is relevant because of our boss monster, our primary guy that we want to end on, Despian Prosimian. It is a level 11 light fiend. It requires a Despia monster, a light and a dark monster, so it definitely requires some resources. However, if you are lucky enough to use a Dramaturgia, it helps you recover a little bit, as well as if you can use Despian of Tragedy, because, you basically break even with it if you have those two, but again, that's an ideal situation, so keep that in mind. But during the main phase, as a quick effect, you can target a Fusion, Synchro, Xyz, or Link in your opponent's graveyard to either banish it or special summon it to your field, and when it destroys an opponent's monster by battle, you also burn them for damage equal to that monster's attack or defense, whichever is higher. They are hard once per turn. So, essentially, what the end goal of this deck is to have, by the end of your turn, to have this and your Dramaturgia on the field. Maximus is good enough setup, so even if your opponent knows, okay, he'll just negate my stuff or steal, I'm not going to do some super combo things. At that point, Maximus is able to just set that up for you. So it's pretty cool. It's a way to get some disruption on the field on top of anything else you might open, which we will go over in a second here. But yeah, it's pretty good. We also, just for the sake of, in case we have things in hands, and because you know what, we can run this and get some pops. Dragma Punishment, you kind of know what it is. Target a monster your opponent controls, send a monster from the extra deck to the grave with the same or higher attack. Pop that monster. You're locked out of the extra deck till the end of your next turn. So, not a bad disruption, an alternate target for our Ecclesia, so worth having, I think. The only other really specifically Stigmatica sort of support cards we're running is Stigmata's Ominous Cry, as well as Black-Clad Dragon Albion. We'll start with Albion. So it is a level 8 Dark Dragon with 2500 attack and 2000 defense. It becomes Fallen of Albaz while on the field or in the grave. And if it's in your hand or graveyard, you can send a Fallen of Albaz or Stigmatica spell trap from your hand or deck to the grave and apply one of these effects depending on where that card was sent from. Special summon it if the card was sent from the hand, and if it was sent from the deck, you place it on the bottom of the deck. And then, if this card was then placed from the hand, you get to draw. So it's a little bit of an unbrick, or just a body you can put on the field for fairly cheap. And lastly, though, we have our Stigmatica Ominous Cry, which is a normal trap. And basically, if a fusion monster is sent to the graveyard this turn, special summon one of your fusion monsters as banished in the grave. So it's a good way to recover. Good way to get our stuff back on board, especially for, bodies and stuff, and recovering our one of Prosimian. So yeah, pretty solid. The last bit of stuff we have is just generic support, like terraforming to get to our feet or easier. Paw of Desires, because there's nothing we super care about banishing here. Effect Veiler, because it's a hand trap, as well as being a light monster, which turns on the ability to fusion summon a lot of our stuff. So yeah, definitely worth having. Now, though, to the extra deck, which is actually a little bit more complicated. So we already went over Prosimian. However, we also have another Despian fusion. Despian Quarides, I think it is. So it is a level 8 Light Fiend with 2500 attack and defense. And during the main phase, as a quick effect, it can zero out everything on the field attack point wise, except for level 8 or higher fusion monsters. And if this card in its own face up, And if this card face up in its owner's control leaves the field because of an opponent's card effect, you can add or special summon a despia monster or a Fallen of Albaz from your deck. These are hard ones to return. So, pretty good. The ability to zero things out might not seem super great at first, but it is definitely a lot more valuable than I had thought it would be. The effect to float is also cool, and yeah, we run 2 because it's also a pretty good target for Dragma Punishment. So yeah, also easy to make. It just requires a despia and a light or a dark, so pretty good. Beyond that, though, our other level 8 or higher fusions are just sort of staple good stuff. Like, for example, we have Starving Vietnam Fusion Dragon to steal attack and blow up boards. We are also able to run a lot of the Albaz Dragon fusions because this is a Fallen of Albaz, so we can actually summon these. We have Albion the Stigmatica Dragon, Bastard the Ashen Dragon or Titaniclad, and then we also have the Brigand the Glory Dragon. All of them are pretty good. All of them have different effects when they're sent to the graveyard during the end phase, which is kind of what they're mostly used for. For example, Albion lets you set a Stigmatica spell trap from your deck to the field. Titaniclad lets you search Fallen of Albaz or attack Dogmatika monster. And your Brigand, the Glory Dragon, lets you special summon or search a Tri-Brigade or Fallen of Albaz from your deck. However, I will say for Brigand the Glory Dragon, its actual on the field effect is more why we have it than its Send effect, because I can't be destroyed by battle, and while you control it, your opponent cannot target other monsters you control with monsters effects, so it's kind of like a little bit of pseudo protection for everything, so it's not bad. Not to mention that they're all good targets for Dragma Punishment, as well as our Elder Entity Ints, because, you know, pop something when it's sent to the graveyard. Pretty solid. Beyond that, we just have some generic stuff. We run a good few level 1s, so Link Karibo's kind of nice to have. Our Nightmare package for removal, and Boral Sword, because sometimes you just want to OTK, as well as being a good high attack point target for Dragma Punishment. Now though, moving on to the side deck, we have our last of the Despia cards, Despian of Comedy. It is a level 1 Dark Fairy with 0 attack and 2,000 defense. It's a little bit of a hand trap. Basically, whenever your opponent activates a card or effect that targets a face-up Despia, you can discard it to negate the effect. And if it's in the graveyard, as a quick effect, you can tribute a fusion to special it. Every deck uses targeting, so it's not that helpful in reality, but it is nice if you can have it around, just in case. So, you know, keep it in the side deck. We also have our Ash Blossoms in case we just need to stop some searching. Cosmic Cyclones for spell trap removal, are Called by the Grave in case we have to deal with hand traps ourselves, Lightning Storm for going second, and we have one more Stigmata Ominous Cry in case we're in a position where our fusion monsters are just getting hefted. And then lastly, we have Judgment of Stigmatica. It's basically a board wipe that lets you target a level 8 or higher fusion you control, then you destroy everything on the field that has higher attack points than it. Obviously, a little bit weird considering that it's a high-level fusion. They usually have a lot of attack points. However, there are some things that will be bigger and are harder to beat over, so it's not a bad thing to have just in case. But, yeah, that's pretty much the deck. So your main goal is just get this on the field and cause disruptions turn 1. But, yeah, if you're new here, we just go over a replay or two. I show you what I liked, what I didn't like, what I thought was a cool thing the deck did, what I thought was not so cool, and etc. so forth, things like that. But, yeah, all that being said, I will see you guys in the replays. Okay, welcome to the first replay with Yami B. We are tab as per usual, and this time we are going second, which is a little bit unideal, but our hand is pretty solid, so I'm not too worried. But anyways, let's jump right into it. So our opponent's going to start. They're playing Harpies, so they're going to summon Harpy Lady 1, go ahead and get something off the Elegant Egotist to make the Harpy Synchro monster, which is pretty solid. Then they're going to activate the Alluring Mirror Split to create floating for all their Harpy monsters, as well as the Harpies hunting around to make that bigger. However, our opponent is unfortunately not really going to pop anything, but they're going to set the Feather Storm, which is pretty good on their end. So they have a full field negate as well as a disruption set up here, potential pops as well. They are in a very good position, actually. But it is now on to us. We're going to go ahead and activate that to send our Despia of Tragedy to get a search. However, he's going to go ahead and pop that Featherstorm, which is fine for us. So we will not be getting the search off of that. In that case, we're just going to activate Terraforming to get our feeder. At which point we're going to activate the feeder, use its effect to go ahead and summon out our Despian Procinian. Not really going to try to activate an effect here, just going to attack over. However, he is going to get the chance to float into the Harpy Perfumer, which will give him a search and a pop, which is pretty solid for him. So he's going to search the Elegant Egotist to start plussing his next turn and pop our feeder. However, we do have the Tragedy in the grave, so we can reset it if we need to. However, we're going to then just set our Ominous Cry. During his main phase, he's going to go ahead and start by activating Elegant Egotist, which we are going to take the chance to steal his Cyber / Harpy Lady from the graveyard. That gives us its disruption as well, which is pretty good. It's going to go ahead and proc the Hunting Ground twice, once from him, once from me. So we're going to go ahead and pop the Hunting Ground. Well, they're not going to get their own pop because, well, they lost the Hunting Ground. Activating Elegant Egotist again to summon Harpy Lady Sisters. Going ahead and making Utopia double to try to go ahead and go into that double-double. For the OTK, searches the double or nothing, sets it up. Tries to attack the Prosimian, going to activate the double or nothing. However, because he activated a Spell Trap, I am able to use his own / Harpy against him to bounce the Utopia, which is pretty cool on our end. So, not able to really do much outside of go ahead and float into a search, which is pretty alright for them. Pretty alright. Goes ahead and search the Feather Rest to get some draws, probably hoping to get a little bit more out of it, and goes ahead and draws the Featherstorm, which is pretty fucking good. But anyways, it is on to us again, and we're going to get the Tragedy, which is pretty good. We're going to go ahead and activate the Tragedy in our graveyard to reset our feeder, which is obviously going to be helpful to us. That does draw out the Featherstorm. We're going to go ahead and chain our Prosimian to get the Utopia double to our field to go ahead and just put up a little bit of a wall. So it's going to be negated. We're going to attack. They're going to float. We're going to attack into the Harpist. Unfortunately, Harpist is going to get him a search in the end phase. Searches the Channeler, which is really good. However, is only just going to go ahead and set that Hysteric Party, set up for a little bit of wall time. Is now on to us. We're going into the battle phase, saving the stuff in our hand a little bit. Is going to go ahead and get some summons out of the Hysteric Party, get a search for the Hunting Grounds, pretty good. So now we're just going to attack over the Channeler, which is also going to allow us to get some burn. Unfortunately, also going to allow him to float into the Oracle, which is yet another search. So we do get some burn. Going to go ahead and attack over the Cyber Harpy Ladies because the other ones float, and rather not have that. During main phase 2, we're going to summon our Ecclesia, which is going to go ahead and search us our Dragma Punishment, and we're going to set that for yet another disruption. So our opponent is going to go ahead and get the Elegant Egotist back. We're going to activate Punishment to go ahead and hit that. Doesn't really matter what we're trying to hit here because our main thing is to use Intis to try to pop the Hysteric Party. So we go ahead and pop the Hysteric Party, which is also going to pop the Harpist. So leaving with one monster on the field, activates the Hunting Ground, gets a pop, is going to pop itself. We did misplay here a little bit, because I had forgotten at the time, but we knew he had the Egotist, so it might have been better to wait for him to make that play, but we misplayed. So we bounced that, is going to go ahead and pop the Mirror Split, which is going to get a revival of the Channeler. Go ahead and pop our Face Down for the Ominous Cry, use the Channeler to get a summon from the deck. At which point, Hunting Ground is going to just have to pop itself. Activates Elegant Egotist to get some power, makes the Harpy Link. Then is going to go into Boral Sword to attack and steal our Prosimian. And is going to go ahead and drop the attack with the double. Unfortunately, that is going to be able to beat over the Cyber Slash and burns with its effect. So things are starting to turn around for our friend over here. He's going to go ahead and banish the Intis from the grave. Unfortunately, getting the search. So things are a little rough here. At which point, though, we are going to go ahead. So start by using Tragedy to reset our feeder, which we are going to activate, and then because we have an extra deck monster on the field, we're able to summon our Ecclesia, which is going to go ahead and search us yet another Dragma Punishment, which we're going to set. Going to just continue to lower Utopia Double for some reason, as well as sending away the Prosimian as his Borreload's effect. However, as now onto our opponent, we're going to activate the Dragma Punishment. He's going to lower it again. We're going to send our own Boral Sword, because, well, we're not summoning that anyways, to pop it, which leaves us in a fairly good position here. So he just has to pass, as we could beat over the Channeler and probably once fall onto the Effect Veiler. So we're going to switch our 2 Ecclesias into attack mode, direct attack twice. Then it's on to our opponent, who's going to summon the Channeler, use the Channeler to dump Channeler to get that. Summoning out the Exciton Knight, pretty good to wipe the board. Then it's on to us. We are going to activate our feeder, which will allow us to do our fusion summon, to summon our Curious, at which point we're going to get a few effects to proc. The first being the search off of Tragedy for our Albert, the second being Dramaturgy summoning itself. After that, we're going to try to drop everything to 0. I was hoping to bait some stuff out here. However, he is just going to go ahead and Veiler us, which is unfortunate. Then we're going to summon our Albert, which is going to go ahead and get us a search for the Dogmatika Curtain Rise. The Excite Knight's going to clear everything out. Thankfully, though, we are able to use our Taurus to get a summon from the deck, at which point we're going to summon our Dramaturgy from the deck, direct attack, pass turn. We couldn't use Curtain Rise here because we had nothing to discard. However, now our opponent is top decking. They're going to set. We are going to draw, activate that because, well, we can just add something to hand to during draw to go ahead and just get something so we can attack for game. Go ahead and reset the Curtain Rise just in the feeder, just in case, which is going to go ahead and search us another Curtain Rise. Then we're going to use that to fusion summon into Cordis, which is going to get us our Dramaturgia back. So we're going to attack out of the Effect Veiler and then attack for game. And yeah, that's kind of the deck, you know. If the opponent isn't using extra deck monsters too much, it can be rough to use Prosimian because this deck relies on your opponent accessing their extra deck. Again, kind of why we have Maximus to force that on them a little bit. But a big part of this game was the fact that the opponent was not able to use their Cyber Slash. And I think that was a very important aspect. However, the next replay is going to be of the deck really showing what it can do. I'll see you guys there. Alright, welcome to the second and final replay with Player. They are playing Sunvalon, pretty solid deck, one of the newer ones. I did a video on it a little bit ago. It was not bad. But yeah, so we have a decent hand here and are going first, so it's good for us. So we're going to go ahead and start by summoning our Albert, which is going to go ahead and grab us our Curtain Rise, which we're going to activate, dropping our Maximus to go ahead and special summon the Dramaturgia from the deck, at which point we activate the feeder to go ahead and fusion summon Prosimian, which is going to allow us to get our Dramaturgia back. Unfortunately, we did not have Servant of Deer, but we still do have the Ecclesia, which we can special summon here in order to get a search for our Dragma Punishment, which we are going to go ahead and set, or Dogmatika Punishment, sorry. So our opponent's going to start with the Unexpected Die to get the Genius Loki, summon Rescue Rabbit to get the others, which point they're going to make the Link 1. However, because the extra deck monster was summoned, we are able to negate, so we're going to try to stop that extension. Unfortunately, our opponent does have another Sunvine Shrine. However, we were unaware of that at the time. So we're going to stop that, activate the Dragma Punishment, go ahead and send Intis in order to pop the Dryas as well as another monster on the field to try to hopefully stop their plays. Unfortunately, our opponent is going to just make another Dryas because these are not hard ones returns. However, we can steal his Dryas so we can gain some life points. At which point activates the Shrine, drops it in order to bring back the Loki, activates it again in order to bring back another Loki, to make the Link 2 into the Link 1 Fresher. which gets special effects when it destroys things by battle. However, he's going to go ahead and just crash into that to gain some life points. That does allow him to summon another Thrasher, which is pretty good, to get some more attack, targeting the Dryas here. However, our opponent did not seem to read Ecclesia and the fact that she cannot be destroyed in battle with extra deck monsters. So it would have been sick if he had been able to do that. However, did not read the effect, and that's what you gotta read. So we're just going to pass turn. Is then on to us. We get the Curtain Rise, which is pretty good. We're just going to go straight battle phase. Activate the attack over that. Activate our Prosimian's effect to do a little burn. Attack over that second one as well. Then we're going into the end phase. Our opponent's going to draw. They still have their Sunvine Shrines though, so they can pop off a little bit. They're going to go ahead and get that Lone Fire proc to make the Link 1, use the Sunvine Shrine again to make the Link 2, pass turn. Is then on to us, at which point we're going to use Prosimian to summon his Thrasher from the grave, which affects procs on special summon, not exclusively on Link summon, which is good overall, but also good for us, as we're going to be able to target his monster and negate its effects so we can attack it, as well as destroy it with the Thrasher. And our opponent's just going to surrender at that point. So, yeah, I think this is a much better example of the deck kind of popping off, just because you get to see it does a lot of disruption, steals a lot of the opponent's things, can really mess with their plays, under the condition that they are using the extra deck, or have extra deck monsters in their graveyard at least. So, it's a cool deck, I did enjoy playing it. The one thing I would say is maybe run another Prosimian in the side deck in case it gets outed, because it is kind of the cornerstone of your strategy. But beyond that, it's just a neat deck, really. I enjoyed playing it. I feel like it was fairly powerful. And yeah, overall, just really happy with this one. But you know what? Let me know what you guys think. Is there anything I should change? Any suggestions you maybe have to make it better? So on, so forth, and all that. And with all that being said, like if you liked, comment if you have something to say, and subscribe if you want some more. This has been Ronin, signing off.